And we are live. First off, please let me know in advance if you guys can hear me on the microphone. It's indicating for me that there is excuse me that the computer is picking up sound. Please let me know if that actually is the case. Please confirm with me, all right? Just so I know, because I remember last week we had an issue regarding the audio, which huge bummer. But anyway, good to be with y'all. It's really good to be back here in the studio, and we'll get on with the show here shortly. Just waiting for this song to wrap up, and then we shall begin. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna set things up over here. Actually, I'm gonna swap this out real quick. Oh shoot, what happened? Okay, perfect. Now we're set for the show. All right, awesome. So I'm just gonna plug in my phone to charge, and yeah, nice to be with y'all once again. Tune in, please. You should be in for a good show today. All right, now we're set. All right, showtime, everybody. Let's get on with it. It is just past 2 o'clock here in Southern California, which means it is time for Grand Prix Talk, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Grand Prix Talk, the show that provides a Wendy's mindset to the Krusty Krab world of motorsports. Did you guys hear about the new Krusty Krab meal at Wendy's, by the way? That's where I got today's little clip from. And I will say, it looks intriguing. I am left to wonder if it's any good. Anyway, the Krusty Krab meal is available now at Wendy's. This isn't sponsored. This is just me being a SpongeBob fan because, I don't know, it's just a cool thing. Welcome to the show, Brody. It's good to hear from you again. And welcome to the show, dear listeners. My name is Sergio Morales, and I am the host of Grand Prix Talk, back with you once again. Thanks for tuning in, whether that is on radio at 22smedia.com, on YouTube at The Sergio Show. Good to hear from you guys once more. You can follow us at 22slb. That is 22slb on Instagram. To follow 22S Radio on Instagram. And you can follow me on Instagram at SMorstagram. That is SMORstagram. Follow us. Keep up with all the latest news. We have a pretty good show set up for you guys today. So let's waste no time and just jump right into it. So we begin first off with our fun facts today in history. So today is October 8th, 2024. 2:05 p.m. here in Southern California. Let's see. As we get on with today's show, let's share a little bit of history here. All right. First off, on this very day, on October 8th in 1945, many of you guys might have this at home. It's called a microwave. Well, on this day in 1945, October 8th, the Raytheon Manufacturing Company filed a patent for the first ever. Well, they filed the first patent for a microwave on this very day. The appliance was invented by Raytheon employee Percy Spencer, and according to the FSIS, aka the USDA, actually, according to the USDA, more than 90% of American homes have at least one microwave inside of their households. So we can blame 1945. That's around the time when we first saw the microwave come to life. Now, let's talk about a little bit of racing history. On this date in 1945, let's talk briefly about the Vanderbilt Cup. For those who may not be so familiar with the Vanderbilt Cup was actually one of the first motorsport trophies that was ever commissioned, if you believe that one. Excuse me. Okay. So the Vanderbilt Cup was founded by a man named William Vanderbilt II. He founded this cup in 1904. And it was awarded following a race on a course set out in the Nassau County, or Nassau, I don't know how to say it, on Long Island, New York, on October 8th, 1904. The Vanderbilt Cup was awarded between October 8th, 1904 and the 1968 year, after which it was folded. Now, this cup was revived in the late 90s following the kart/IRL split. The revived Vanderbilt Cup was awarded as the main trophy for the disastrous US 500, which was first held in 1996, and it did not go on for too many years after that, only running up to 1999, with Jimmy Vasser winning the inaugural US 500 and Tony Kanaan winning the last one in 1999. Now, the Vanderbilt Cup was awarded as part of the kart championship trophy. The Vanderbilt Cup would end up becoming kart's season championship trophy, which Gilles de Ferran won twice in the year 2000 and in 2001, and Sebastian Bourdais would win 4 times between 2004 and 2007. Sebastian, by the way, is now racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Anyway, so with our history covered for today, let's talk. We got 2 big subjects to talk about today, if I'm being honest, all right? The first one we're going to cover is IndyCar. Yesterday, all right, actually, now we can begin. Now that our transition is complete, now we can begin. Yesterday, it was announced on October 7th, 2024, that IndyCar would be hosting a brand new street circuit race in the streets of Arlington, Texas. Now, this to me, we talked about this briefly last week on the show, and to me, I kind of found it as a pro and a con. It was both good and bad. We're going to dive into that briefly, but first, allow me to share with you guys what IndyCar themselves have to say about it. So for my YouTube stream, I'm actually going to, according to IndyCar.com, 3 championship organizations are uniting to bring an NTT IndyCar Series race to the streets of Arlington, Texas. Penske Entertainment, the Dallas Cowboys, and Rev Entertainment, the official events partner of the Texas Rangers, have announced a first-of-its-kind joint venture to establish and operate the IndyCar Grand Prix of Arlington, with the initial race set for March 2026. According to IndyCar, this track layout is going to be 2.73 miles in length, and it's going to whirl around both the AT&T Stadium, which is the home of the Dallas Cowboys, and the Globe Life Field, which is the home of the Texas Rangers MLB team. The track will weave through Arlington's core sports and entertainment district, which features an all-star lineup of events and venues, and annually sells more than 1.6 million tickets to spectators near and far. Okay, so initial thoughts. The Grand Prix of Arlington looks a little bit like the Miami Grand Prix. I'm going to just be honest with y'all, okay? IndyCar really is... Okay, this can be both good and bad. I'm telling y'all. This can be both good and bad, okay? So it looks a lot like the Miami Grand Prix in the essence that IndyCar is now using hybrid powertrains. F1 has been doing it since 2014. They're putting up a street race around a football stadium. Again, Miami Grand Prix already did that with Miami Dolphins, who are not doing very well in the NFL apparently. And it's a street race. You know, we've seen plenty of those. And IndyCar, it's not like they're short of street races. They have plenty of street races. They have plenty of road courses. So I guess that's its one big downside. It looks a lot like something Formula One has already tried and succeeded at. Now, this can also be a good thing for IndyCar, if I'm being honest. The Texas market seems to be a pretty important one for IndyCar. They've been racing, prior to this, they had been racing at Texas Motor Speedway for decades, all right? And while it is a bummer to lose Texas Motor Speedway, let's be honest with ourselves, Texas Motor Speedway has not exactly been putting up great racing, so to speak, as of recently. Let's just be honest with ourselves. And attendance numbers speak for it. NASCAR is struggling to bring in a third of what the grandstands at Texas Motor Speedway can bring in. You know, quote Slapshoes on that one because he went to the All-Star race in 2023. Was it 23 or 22? It was one of those years. But one year when it was at Texas Motor Speedway. And they really had to tape off a lot of the grandstands. So it shows, you know, the Texas Motor Speedway is not bringing in as many fans as one would hope. And when this announcement came about, I did see comments that were like, bring back Texas Motor Speedway. And I don't blame them, honestly, because it is sad to lose a legacy venue for, you know, a fancy new street race. I do understand the criticism and I do sympathize with it. But on the other hand, this can be very good for IndyCar. This might be something that finally puts them back on the map, which they needed to do a long time ago. All right. I'm going to briefly stop sharing my screen while I pull up some other stuff. But IndyCar has been just, when it comes to marketing, IndyCar could not be doing a worse job, if I'm being honest. F1 is through the roof right now. NASCAR is finally starting to catch up, and they're doing pretty good too. IndyCar is just kind of like sitting out. It's like if F1 and NASCAR were at a dance party, and they were the ones who were just tearing up, who were just doing good moves, and there's IndyCar sitting on the sideline, and meanwhile it can do so much better things. Like it has a lot of great moves to speak for, but it's just sitting in the sidelines and doesn't want to show people. It's about time that they did something that really got people talking. And I think the IndyCar Grand Prix of Arlington is going to be good for that. Now, earlier today, the race route was revealed. Was it today? Yes, it was earlier today. And actually, we can share our screen once more. And I get to show you guys this page right here. I hope, yeah. Okay, so somebody on Reddit actually posted the IndyCar street race. So let me just stop sharing and share the. Okay, so somebody on Reddit.com actually posted the presumed race route of the IndyCar Grand Prix of Arlington. So for my radio stream, I'll do my best to describe it as best I can. But for my YouTube stream, you guys have the advantage because you guys get to see my screen here. So we start off over here in what looks like the pit crew, the pit lane. And honestly, the pit lane looks a lot like Detroit's. Let's be honest with ourselves. It is Detroit's pit lane all over again. What I mean by that for my radio stream is rather than one straight pit lane is split in two. Pit crews on one side to the left, and then there's more pit crews on the right side. I think this is really interesting. It is nice to see them experiment with something like this, especially since Detroit is really the only place where you would actually be able to see something like that. It's nice for them to bring it to a new venue. Like, I think that's pretty dope. And who knows, maybe this becomes the standard pit lane for IndyCar in the future when they start building up new circuits or something. I don't know. Anyway, the front stretch is overlooking the AT&T Stadium, or more accurately, the AT&T Stadium is overlooking the front stretch. So we head over here. Turn 1 seems to be a hard 90-degree left, which to be expected at a circuit like this. Turn 2 is also another 90-degree right. So two consecutive 90-degree turns. And then there's a third 90-degree turn all the way over in turn 3, and each of these 3 is 90 degrees. So right off the bat, you're looking at least 270 consecutive degrees of plain turns, okay? So you have that, and then you go down a decent straightaway over here, so nothing too crazy. Turn 4 is going to be a little bit more in-depth, I would say, as it looks like almost halfway towards being a U-turn. And then we get to turns 5, 6, 7, and 8. Like, this is when things get interesting. So you have turn 5, another 90-degree right. Turn 6 leads into turn 7, which is a massive, like, circular turn, almost akin to the beach turn at the Miami Grand Prix circuit. Looks like that. Or if you're looking for a less Miami-esque type of description, another close one I can think of would have to be maybe Malaysia in F1. Let me look it up, actually, because there's already a portion of the Miami Grand Prix circuit that looks kind of like it. Like I said, it's the beach turn. So I'm actually going to pull up the image right over here. And then, yeah, okay, so YouTube stream. I'm about to share a difference over here. So we're going to go to the Miami Grand Prix circuit over here. So you see this portion right here, turns 11, 12, and 13 of Miami. That's what kind of looks like turn 5, 6, 7, and 8 over for the IndyCar Arlington track. I wish I could try a side-by-side comparison, but you get the point, right? It's all the way over here, and they look very similar. It'll be interesting to see how IndyCar pulls this one off, but at least from what Miami has seen, it looks a little bit more like a spectacle, but who knows? Maybe it presents itself a good overtaking opportunity. It's worth noting, That turn, that massive circular turn that I'm talking about, is inside the parking lot of the AT&T Stadium. So don't expect to park inside where you would normally park if you're going to see the Dallas Cowboys and Cowgirls play. Anyway, sorry to our dog, Jerry Reynoso. More on the Reynoso report a little bit later on today. Yeah, so we have that. Then we have another 90-degree right over here. And then it leads into what looks like an actual major intersection over here on North Collins Street. Yes, over here. So this looks like a major intersection. And then the drivers then make a 90-degree right. And then there's this massive straightaway over here that almost looks like the 1+ mile straightaway that used to be in Sao Paulo, Brazil, back when IndyCar raced over there. This right here, I'm really looking forward to seeing this, because I think this is one of those times where we will get to see Indy cars break 200 miles per hour. Like, that is super exciting. And okay, normally they do anyway on a street circuit. At the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But to see it on a street circuit, I really hope they get to break 200 miles an hour over here. Like, that would be awesome to see. But then, after all of that high speed on East Randall Mill Road, they're going to make a hard braking turn into what is this? Shoot, I lost count of the turns. Anyway, then they're going to brake hard into the next turn, which is another 90-degree right. Then they're going to race on down over here for another big stretch, another big straightaway. Then they're going to roar on to Cowboys Way, which is literally what the street is called. They'll make a right turn into Cowboys Way. They'll make another right turn back into the start-finish line straight over here. This is the Pickers Straight. I imagine start-finish will be there as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it was there. Frankly, I'm not sure where else they would want to put it. But yeah, that is a presumed lap of the race route for the Arlington IndyCar Grand Prix. Now, it's worth noting that the Reddit page that I got it from did say this was pulled from a member of the Arlington City Council's Facebook page. So there's that for you. And I will say, now that I'm seeing it possibly in action right here, this is presumed. This is just on Reddit. So don't take my word for it. Wait for official confirmation from IndyCar themselves. But that's more or less what the track layout looks like. Like I said, IndyCar did reveal the track layout earlier today, and it looks pretty much like this. So my first reaction to it is not bad. Not bad, actually. The difference between this track and the Miami Grand Prix track. Hey, by the way, Jerry Reynoso is actually in the studio. I know he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. I wonder if he's listening in and hearing about the fact that IndyCar is about to take over. Anyway, moving on. I will say, it is nice to see a little bit of variation here. Granted, they're not just racing around a football stadium. They're also racing around a baseball stadium. So in that sense, they kind of have to stretch out a little bit and get a little creative. I will say, it looks a lot better than Detroit's current street circuit, which is almost all 90-degree left or right, which sucks, honestly. I'm sorry, but between Belle Isle, which used to be on the IndyCar calendar, and the current Detroit street circuit, aside from the two-sided pit lane that they have, I would much rather have the Belle Isle circuit. Granted, it's not like Belle Isle was exactly the most exciting circuit in the world, but it is cooler than their current Detroit circuit, if I'm being honest. So, IndyCar at Arlington, that is coming in March of 2026. So we still got plenty of time between now and then. But I will say, between this and the Miami Grand Prix circuit, I don't know. Obviously, like I said, the Miami's already done it. They're gonna do it again for several years. And to be fair, it's looking like they're doing pretty all right, aside from the insane ticket prices. It's looking like it might, like, if IndyCar is going to take the best parts of the Miami Grand Prix and implement them here, then fine. I will admit there is a little concern. As I said, there's just this huge possibility where it just looks like IndyCar is trying to copy F1. It's like they're trying to copy F1's homework, just at a different setting. In which case, I would have much rather have seen IndyCar race as a support race to F1, or maybe even race the weekend before, because I don't think IndyCar really wants to be seen as the baby F1 or the support series to F1 either. Like, they want to be seen as its own big league, and they want to be taken seriously. So if they wanted something like that, maybe they could have raced around the Miami Grand Prix circuit, maybe the week before F1 was going to do it. So they have their own little weekend. And bring Indy Next and the USF Pros and all those support series. Bring them along. Heck, bring F1 Academy if you really can do it, if you can really wrangle them in. Though I doubt it because it's F1 Academy, not IndyCar Academy. But yeah, just my thoughts. It looks like they're going to try and do what Miami's already doing. It will be very interesting to see how they do it, though. Maybe IndyCar does it better than Miami. Maybe this race turns out to be an absolute banger, and it turns out to be race of the year and a great way to kick off the season. We'll see. Honestly, like I said, this race is not going to happen until March of 2026. So we still have a lot of time before now and then. The 2025 IndyCar schedule has already been announced, and it looks pretty much the same as the 2024 season, which wrapped up about a month ago. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Arlington Grand Prix. It will be very fun to find out how this all goes about. So with that in mind, I'm going to take a little bit of a breather here. And next, we're going to talk about NASCAR and Talladega. So before that, though, the song that I'm about to play on the radio stream was actually a song that I was reminded of just this past weekend. I went to an event with Circle K International. By the way, major shout out to anyone listening at Circle K International, if they are. Shout out to you guys. And the president of Circle K International here in Cal State Long Beach, we were casually chatting with other people at a table, and we were like, "Hey, if your life had a theme song, let's see." Brody F1 says, "Are you going to be talking about F1 today?" We will be a little bit later towards the end of the show. We're covering NASCAR and Talladega up next, and then we'll talk about some F1. So stay tuned for that, dog. As I was saying, president of Circle K International here in Long Beach was like, if your life was a sitcom, what would the theme song be? I think mine would be Everything's Gonna Be Fine by Tsunami, DJ Tsunami for that matter. And this is that song right now. So stay with us for Grand Prix Talk. We'll be right back. Yes, no problem, dude. Hey, thank you for tuning in. It's good to hear from you again. We will return shortly. So up next, we'll talk about NASCAR and Talladega, and then after that, we'll preview a little bit of NASCAR at the Roval, and then we'll talk about some F1. Specifically, we're going to start talking about the USGP, which is the next race coming up. See you in a bit, y'all. Why they don't cover the camera. All right, chat. We're almost back here. I just remembered I can cover the camera whenever I'm on pause with my jacket. I wish I would have thought of that one earlier, but yeah. Anyway, we are almost back on the show in a little bit. Just stay with us, all right, y'all? Grand Prix Talk. Sorry, by the way, I just forgot to unmute the YouTube studio chat. Anyway, that was Everything's Gonna Be Fine by Tsunami here on Grand Prix Talk on 22 West Radio. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about NASCAR and Talladega because that is something that I thought we ought to talk about briefly because there is still more to talk about. I just remembered we got to also talk about the Toyota GR Cup and we got to talk about F1. So believe me, we have a packed show today. So the good news is that NASCAR's Talladega race, although it was action-packed, it's not like there was too many big moments that happened during the race. So let's briefly touch upon NASCAR and Talladega. All right. So we begin the race with NASCAR and Talladega with Michael McDowell and Austin Cindric starting 1 and 2 respectively. Hey, Sergio, who on earth is Michael McDowell? I hear you say. That is a Daytona 500 winner from 2021. And he also won on the Indianapolis road course sometime after that. So he's got 2 race wins to his name, more than I do, that's for sure. And then the 38 car, I believe, of Todd Gilliland. I don't know how he got up there, but hey, mad respect. And Kyle Busch, still looking for his first win of the 2024 season, started in 4th place. Interestingly, the highest playoff driver, the highest qualified playoff driver of the, at least starting the race, was Austin Cindric. He started in 2nd place. Yes, that's correct. Okay, perfect. And then Ryan Blaney would be the next highest. He qualified 5th place. The rest of your top 10 for the starting lineup here in Talladega were Joey Logano starting in 6th, Austin Dillon starting 7th, Denny Hamlin 8th, Harrison Burton in 9th, and I believe that is the 31 of Justin Haley. Is that correct? Starting in 10th place. So pretty rancid starting grid, honestly. Like that's pretty bonkers if you ask me. The race got underway. And it didn't take long for a yellow to drop. All right. So it really did not. It was very brief. It was like not even 10 laps into the race. On lap number 7, around there, that's when we got our first caution of the day. And that was Daniel Suarez spinning out and into the infield of the circuit. And it's such a shame because that number 99 Tootsie's Orchard Lounge Chevy actually looks pretty darn dope. But sorry, it was not lap 7. It was lap number 12, by the way. I miscounted that. So that's my mistake. Anyway, there was plenty of 4-wide racing action, which, by the way, I just want to point out, looking at it now, 4-wide in Talladega looks absolutely bonkers. Like I got to take that side in, especially when there's like multiple rows of 4-wide action right there. But that's got to be equally terrifying, too, because imagine if even one dude makes a mistake there. If even one guy makes a mistake, especially if they're further ahead, you're all gone. You're all gone, especially like that. If you're all packed up like this. It is so awesome to see 4-wide action in Talladega, but equally terrifying, too. I'm looking at this shot from 17 laps out from the end of stage number 1. There is, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of 4-wide. That is 24 cars bunched up together like that. And at that point, this looks like fighter jets, if I'm being honest. I know I'm talking a lot as if I was a new race fan, but that's kind of the point of why I bring Grand Prix Talk to you. We bring a Wendy's mindset to the Krusty Krab world of motorsport. Enough ranting, moving on. So stage 1 looks pretty darn awesome. Chris Buescher would walk away with the stage 1 victory as he just barely beats, who is that, the 47 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and the 5 of Kyle Larson, oddly enough. Now that also came from a little help thanks to one Tyler Reddick in the number 45 Monster Energy Beast Toyota. Yeah, that looked pretty darn crazy. Because the thing is, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. actually pulled away considerably. So there was that. But then the 45 of Tyler Reddick gives the 17 of Chris Buescher a push. And it's just enough for Chris Buescher to actually edge out everyone else. Chris Buescher walked away with a stage 1 win. Pretty awesome stuff. Start of stage number 2 looks equally not too dramatic. Not much to talk about. But there was one moment on lap 94 of the race that was worth talking about. As if Martin Truex Jr. fans had enough of a reason to continue watching, their boy Martin Truex Jr. spun out coming into pit lane on lap number 94. From the looks of it, it looks like his brakes just got all heated and he just spun out of control and lost it. What a shame for the 19, honestly, because this being he's not even in the playoffs. It's not like they needed to beat him even further already. Anyway, green flag pit stops went about as you'd expect, pretty clean. Some cars, like that of Christopher Bell, decided to go for only fuel. So that's an interesting decision, but one that would pay off. Anyway, Cindric. Let's talk about Austin Cindric. Car number 2, the discount tire Ford Mustang Dark Horse for Team Penske. At the end of stage 2, it would be Austin Cindric who walked away with the win for stage 2, thanks to help from his teammate Ryan Blaney, who also looked like he almost might have, he did. He caused a wreck. It was Ryan Blaney who, he pushed his teammate to the win, but in turn he slowed down. He made contact with the 48 of Alex Bowman. Blaney got the worst of it. He spun out into the outside retaining wall. Man, what a hit though. Honestly, that looks rough. He went head on. He just went just full speed at 180 plus miles an hour. That looked bad. And that would be the end of Ryan Blaney's day, presumably. He collected the number 1 car of Ross Chastain, who last weekend was the winner out in Kansas Speedway. Man, what a shame. Honestly, I hope Blaney's all right. It looks like he is because he was able to climb out of the car. But man, that was a hard hit, no less. Don't get it twisted, folks. The 48 he really was coming in at full steam, and I guess the 12, while he was slowing down, he was not prepared for it. Man, that's such a bummer, honestly. Anyway, start of stage 3 in the meantime would see Bubba Wallace and Kyle Busch leading the field to green. Bubba Wallace, by the way, he is from a little town called Mobile, Alabama. Talladega is in the state of Alabama, so he's running his home race, basically. And I will say, this looks like a really competitive race, which is ultimately what we wanted more out of Talladega than Big Rex. Hey, did I say Big Rex? Yes, my friends, I said Big Rex. It's time to talk about the big one, which for my newer listeners of Grand Prix Talk and on my YouTube stream, if you don't know what the big one is, it refers to a massive wreck in a NASCAR race that typically only occurs at the big tracks like Talladega. In this edition of the big one, it happened with about 5 laps left in the race. They kept it clean for a long time. Basically, the entire race was pretty clean, aside from Ryan Blaney's wreck at the end of stage number 2. So the 38 of Todd Gilliland, I believe, he basically just decided, I'm just going to back off. He was already all by himself. He saw this entire draft and decided, nope, I don't want anything to do with it. And goodness me, that was a good decision because the 6 of Brad Keselowski hit the number 2 car of Austin Cindric. Cindric spun. He hit the 47 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And Ricky was fine. Austin, not so much. He spun. He spun out right in front of the 9 of Chase Elliott. The 22 of Joey Logano also barely missed him. But the 21 of Harrison Burton also tried to avoid, as did virtually everyone else behind him. All of this happened because everyone tried to avoid the number 2 of Austin Cindric, who, poor guy, he got the worst of it. He got slammed by the number 31, I believe, of Justin Haley. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, the 31 car was the one that hit him the hardest. The number 2 just spun around like a tabletop, basically. In total, if I'm not mistaken, 28 cars were involved in this wreck. That is insane. That is bonkers, if you ask me. That is just maniacal. That might be one of the biggest wrecks. Statistically, that's one of the biggest wrecks in NASCAR history. There have been bigger wrecks than this, but at least most of us, we didn't really see a bigger wreck than this one. 28 cars were involved in that one. It was a mess. Overtime restarts. Yep, that big one would lead to overtime, presented by Credit One Bank. And it would see Ricky Stenhouse Jr. leading Brad Keselowski to the green flag. Now, lucky us, it looked like that overtime attempt was going to go clean. And you bet it that it did, believe it or not. I know, right? A clean overtime attempt at Talladega Superspeedway on the first try? How does that one happen? Oh, my goodness. Moving on. I need to stop ranting. Moving on. The 6 car of Brad Keselowski. Let's jump to the final lap of the race here. Brad Keselowski and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. are battling it out as if it was the freaking Daytona 500. Both of these lads, only one of them has a Daytona 500 win to his name, and that's Ricky Stenhouse Jr., by the way. So Brad Keselowski, he's getting a push by Kyle Larson, and Brad seems like he's going to run away with it because he is an entire car length ahead of him, ahead of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but never count a race at Talladega as complete until someone has taken the checkered flag. Because just when it looked like Brad Keselowski was going to cruise home to the win, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets a push from the 24 of William Byron. And from there on out, it's pretty much history at this point. We get another 3-wide photo finish right over here. And that consists of Brad Keselowski, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and William Byron, the guy that pushed Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to a victory, if you'd believe that one or not. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the guy who I did not think was going to be winning this one. Like, once I saw the photo finish replay, I did not think it was going to be Stenhouse taking the win. I thought maybe Brad, maybe William Byron. I did not have the 47 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. winning this one, all right? But it looks like he did, and when you look at the photo finish, indeed he did. By 6 thousandths of a second. One of the closest finishes in Talladega, and a considerably close finish here at this racetrack and in NASCAR overall for sure. Brad Keselowski, poor dude, would have to settle for second place, and William Byron would have to settle for third place. So let's take a look at the rest of your results following Talladega. So yeah, those are your top three. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. came away victorious, Brad Keselowski second, and William Byron finished in third. Kyle Larson and Eric Jones finished fourth and fifth respectively. The rest of your top 10 is Christopher Bell, Justin Haley, Austin Dillon, Bubba Wallace, and Denny Hamlin. That is your top 10. That is your recap of the Yellowwood 500 at Talladega Superspeedway. Now, before we continue on to our next subject, which is the Toyota GR Cup, and finally Formula One, let's also take a brief look at our playoff standings because the next race for NASCAR is at the Charlotte Roval, and that is going to be the final race of the round of 12 in the playoffs. Currently, I want to assume that safely through is William Byron, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson, who are all first, second, and third respectively. The rest of your top 8 is Denny Hamlin 4th, Alex Bowman 5th, Ryan Blaney 6th, Tyler Reddick 7th, and Chase Elliott in 8th. I'm talking right now about your playoff standings right here. Those 8 drivers going into the Charlotte Roval are safe. There are 4 drivers who are on the bubble, meaning these lads, they better either win or they're done. At least get a good finish or they're done. They must finish well or they're done. I said that already. Anyway, moving on. Chase Briscoe goes into this race 12th place in the standings. He is definitely in danger of elimination. Austin Cindric also, he's in 11th place, 29 points behind the cutoff line. Chase Briscoe is 32 points behind the cutoff line. Daniel Suarez, it's sad to say. You know what? I gotta live stream. I gotta share my screen on my YouTube stream over here. So we have our 4 drivers who are on the bubble. Like I said, Chase Briscoe, he's 32 points behind the cutoff line. Austin Cindric, 29 points behind the cutoff line. Daniel Suarez is 20 points behind the cutoff line in 10th. And Joey Logano, he is 13 points behind the cutoff line. He is in 9th place, with Chase Elliott being in 8th place. So it's going to be very interesting to see these two guys go at it at the Charlotte Roval this weekend. But yeah, this is what standings look like going into the Charlotte Roval. These are going to be very interesting to see how they fare out, honestly. I'm starting to think, okay, let me just make a prediction here. I think Chase Briscoe, he's not through. I highly doubt that he will make it through to the next round of the playoffs. Austin Cindric, maybe. I don't know. It would also take a miracle for him. But somebody like Joey Logano, I feel like might stand a pretty good shot at least eliminating one of these guys, whether that's Chase Elliott or maybe Tyler Reddick. One of these two might lose out to Joey Logano. But Daniel Suarez, man, it's going to take a miracle also. It's going to take a miracle. And it sucks because I'm a Suarez fan. So I really hope that he can make something good happen this weekend at the Charlotte Roval, but we'll see. But Logano might be able to eliminate one of these guys, whether that's Tyler Reddick or Chase Elliott. Who exactly? I don't know which of those two, but it'll be one of them if Logano makes it through. So We'll find out if my predictions here are correct or not at the Bank of America Roval 400 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the road course, this Sunday, October 13th at 11 a.m. Eastern on NBC Channel 4. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about something I did not see coming, all right? Many of you tuned into this week's episode of Grand Prix Talk looking at the thumbnail and seeing we got Keanu racing before GTA 6, and maybe you thought this dude must be insane. No, I'm not going insane if you'd believe it or not. One of the big occurrences of the weekend in motorsport was that one of the biggest appearances was that of Keanu Reeves. All right, you've heard of him. You know, he's a little actor. He appeared in a movie called John Wick. He also appeared in John Wick Chapter 2, John Wick Chapter 3. You know, he also appeared in The Matrix, and he's going to be the voice of Shadow the Hedgehog in the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie that's coming out later this year. Actually, at the end of the year, more accurately. Yeah, that Keanu Reeves. Well, this past weekend in the Toyota GR Cup, North America, Keanu Reeves actually went out and raced. You're hearing that correctly. Keanu Reeves was actually at a race this past weekend, not in the sense of a fan, but he actually went to compete. And I gotta say, it was crazy. It was wild to see. Some of the major news outlets are also reporting this, like CNN, The Guardian, AP News. Motorsport.com over here also reported it, so I'm actually going to go ahead and share my screen with my YouTube stream so they know what I'm talking about and they know that I'm not going bonkers. Toyota GR Cup season finale. He raced against more than 30 drivers for 2 races on October 5th and 6th. My buddy Aiden Yoder was actually out there this weekend at the Toyota GR Cup. He's a regular in the GR Cup. He competed this past season with Precision Racing. Aiden, you're doing all right. Anyway, so Keanu Reeves, this dude actually competed in the GR Cup. And according to motorsport.com, I actually watched this race, so it was pretty interesting to see. The thing is, Keanu, it's not his first time competing professionally in a race. He actually won the Toyota Pro Celebrity race here in the streets of Long Beach back when that was a thing. He won it once, but from there on out, he didn't really race. But to see him compete in the GR Cup, that was something awesome. In an interview on the Toyota GR Cup social media account earlier last weekend, he said, "Hi, I'm Keanu Reeves. I'm number 92. The first session today was a blast. I don't know. It's fun. Racing is fun. It's fun. Everyone says it's fun, and it's fun. Do not take a shot for how many times I said it's fun, because that is literally the quote from this interview." Who is calling me in the middle of my show? Anyway, moving on. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah, like that. He said it 5 times, but you know what? I'm glad he enjoyed it. So yeah, Keanu Reeves, he actually went out to compete in the GR Cup this past weekend. A full replay of this race is available now on YouTube. Just look up the GT World YouTube channel and look up Toyota GR Cup Indianapolis 2024. And you will see that Keanu Reeves actually competed. Too bad for him. Unfortunately, he actually spun out in the race, which is such a shame, honestly. For my YouTube stream that's watching, here's the video itself. He spun out with about 20 minutes left in the race. He was running 21st, and man, such a shame, honestly. I think a lot of us were definitely rooting for Shadow the Hedgehog over there to do well and actually do a good finish. But how exactly did it happen? Well, let me see it. Hold on. I'm trying to hit play. So how exactly did this happen? Well, he was going around one of the turns at the racetrack, and then he just drifted out. He just lost control. This has happened to me plenty of times on iRacing, so I can't really blame him. Anyway, yeah, it was something. It was something. I will say, though, I'm glad to see Keanu compete in the GR Cup. But anyway, quote motorsport.com, Reeves' return to racing reminds us of several other celebrities who have successfully taken up racing as a hobby, some more serious than others. Younger readers may not know much of Paul Newman. I certainly do. He's the voice of Doc Hudson in the Cars franchise. Also, Patrick Dempsey, Eric Bana, Caitlyn Jenner, and Tom Cruise have all done wheel-to-wheel competition. Paul Newman, who was successful as a racer and team owner, wasn't involved with motorsports until his late 40s, competing regularly at the front of the pack into his 80s. But anyway, driver Gresham Wagner, who basically dominated the GR Cup this past season, he would walk away at the end of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway race weekend with 10 wins to his name and the season championship. So the GR Cup, man, I enjoyed watching the GR Cup this past season, and I'm glad to see Keanu Reeves competing in it. So yeah, you weren't going crazy when you read the title for this week's episode of Grand Prix Talk. It literally was Keanu Reeves himself competing. That is insane, honestly. I don't know. Is it just me? Anyway, that was quite something to watch, but I need a little bit of a breather, so we'll be right back, and we will be talking briefly about Formula One and see what they are up to as they come up upon U.S. Grand Prix race weekend here in just a few weeks' time. But first, a little bit of Biba Doobie, who I have not had enough of her music, by the way. Here's Talk by Biba Doobie here on Grand Prix Talk, so we're going to skip ahead. Yeah, here's Biba Doobie with Talk on Grand Prix Talk. I know, right? I just realized that pun. We'll be right back. All right, y'all. We will be right back here shortly, and we will be talking briefly about Formula One. Stay with us, chat. I'll be right back. Oh, no. It's... All right, chat. We are back. Let's finish the show for today. Yep. All right. Hold on, Sue. We love you, but almost time for her to wrap up the show for today. That will be When I Fall by Tsunami and Run. You heard Talk by Biba Doobie, who, like I said, I have not had enough of her music as of late. Anyway, let's briefly talk about Formula One to wrap up today's episode of Grand Prix Talk. They're coming up on U.S. Grand Prix race weekend, which is going to be hopefully a very, very good race. Hopefully, we will see. But on the note of the U.S. Grand Prix, something interesting has just come up according to motorsport.com. Apparently, there's going to be fake gravel around the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, which is going to be one of several new track limits measures for the U.S. Grand Prix. Changes are confirmed at Austin, aimed to avoid repeating last year's track limits problems. So, what I'm about to point out is according to motorsport.com. So there is where I got my information for this. With the Circuit of the Americas venue being resurfaced for this year, the opportunity was there to address issues that cropped up at last year's race with drivers abusing the white lines at the edge of the circuit. In fact, the problem of drivers cutting corners became so prevalent that Haas sought a right of review over what it claimed were multiple breaches by competitors in a race that should have been sanctioned. While the FIA stewards rejected Haas' request, there was several onboard video footage of drivers running off track, especially turn 6, which prompted complaints from other teams about the lack of action being taken. So, what are these limits? Now that we have our little background here, the asphalt verges have been narrowed by 1.5 meters and replaced with turf, which should stop drivers being tempted to run fully across them on the inside of turns 6, 13, 14, and 15. Plus, there is track resurfacing that was, quote, mainly to get rid of the bumps, end quote, added some lad named Bobby Epstein, who was the race promoter for the U.S. Grand Prix. So, my brief opinion on the U.S. Grand Prix coming up. Hopefully, what are my predictions? Believe me, there is an entire episode coming up on not just the history of the U.S. Grand Prix, but also my predictions. We're going to talk, I'll give you my brief predictions here shortly. But like I said, we're also going to dive a lot more into that next week. So stay tuned for that. But regarding the track limits, I think it's a good move. I was at last year's U.S. Grand Prix, and I do remember that there was a lot of drama regarding, like, this dude breached track limits. That dude breached track limits as well. Like, it was bonkers. It was bonkers. And for this year's U.S. Grand Prix, I don't expect it to be any more track war, honestly. I'm thinking the track limits might be breached a few times, especially over by turns 19 and 20. That's where I think the most track limits might be breached, if they are. As far as race results and such, as Brody F1 just commented on our YouTube stream, McLaren is continuing their strong showing. And I feel like that will definitely continue going into U.S. Grand Prix weekend. I think Ferrari might be able to show something also, though I could be wrong, because Ferrari's strongest showing was at the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, with their massive long, like that circuit is just a blazing fast circuit. The circuit in the Americas does have one long straightaway, so I feel like they'll definitely shine in that section of track. Everywhere else, though, that's up for a question. Like I said, we're going to talk more about that next week, but that's just my brief prediction. I think Ferrari and McLaren are going to be up for a good weekend at the U.S. Grand Prix. More on that next week's episode of Grand Prix Talk, though, when we'll also be covering the history of the race. So that being said, track limits should be something worth pointing out. So fake gravel. Will that control the cars, though? Maybe. Maybe. Just maybe. I feel like it'll help. It'll help because these Formula One cars are just so fragile, and virtually anything can really shred them, except for air. They love the air, but anything else that hits them, whether that's a little piece of gravel or something, Formula One cars don't like that at all. So we'll see. We'll see, honestly, but that is the track limits issues as far as that's concerned. Yeah, so we'll see what happens next week. Actually, no. The U.S. Grand Prix is in 2 weeks' time. So next week, we will have a preview, a history lesson of the United States Grand Prix. And believe me, there's a lot of history about that one. We'll also be previewing the 2024 U.S. Grand Prix and share a lot more predictions. But as far as my at the moment predictions, Ferrari and McLaren should be in for a good weekend. So yeah, that is going to conclude today's episode of Grand Prix Talk. Stay tuned, by the way, if you're listening in on 22westradio.com. If you haven't already done so, download the 22West Radio app as well, so you can listen not only to this show, but other shows that are coming up later on this afternoon. Coming up next on 22West Radio is the inaugural episode of a new show called Hear Me Out by Sam Rosario and Jerry Reynoso. Jerry Reynoso is the man behind the Reynoso Report, which is part of the sports blog at 22 West. He and Sammy Rosario have put out a new show called Hear Me Out, which is coming up next here on 22westradio.com. You can tune in there on that website, which is also right here. Or you can download the 22 West Radio app. And you can listen to this show plus many others, including Hear Me Out, coming up later on today, which is actually almost coming up next, actually. Also coming up later tonight is Self-Standard Radio by Morgan Barella. That is coming up at 6 o'clock tonight. Hopefully by then she's tried that Wendy's Krabby Patty meal. But for us at Grand Prix Talk, that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It was a great episode, and I really am looking forward to more. Next week, tune in at the same time, 2 o'clock Pacific time, next Tuesday, October 15th. We'll talk about the U.S. Grand Prix, the past, the present, previews and predictions of the 2024 US Grand Prix. Should be in for a great episode. So until then, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. And we're setting off today's episode of Grand Prix Talk with When I Fall by Tsunami and Run. My name is Sergio Morales. Thank you all for tuning in. I will see you next week for another episode of Grand Prix Talk. Take care, everyone. Take care, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. It was a good show. So I'll see you all next week.